Let's get it in. We already know what's going on. CM Punk returned at Survivor Series. The internet exploded. Everybody's got an opinion. There's plenty of missives being written, tears flowing, rage, unbridled, naked rage. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let's just get right into it. I already did my video, my response. If you didn't see it, it is CM Punk's new bridge and basically the Survivor Series review. So now this is about the people, the peanut gallery. So this is from a gentleman. He wrote a pretty long series of tweets in which he has a TNA podcast. So that's very interesting, which makes him almost an AEW fan by default. But he says, quote, one of the reasons AEW, quote, restoring the feeling is going to be so hard is two foundational parts of that feeling in the first place, CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, not work for their competitor. There are other parts of that identity you could fall back on, but personally for me, it would involve Kenny lost in a mid-card tag team or Hangman disappearing for weeks at a time. If you do not understand how there is pretty much a direct through line from the pipe bomb promo to the creation of AEW and the kind of fans that formed AEW's hardcore from day one, you are very silly. It's why Punk was such a picture-perfect fit for AEW. The brand was basically a spiritual evolution from a movement he started, and why it not working out let so much air out of the balloon. Punk was the voice of frustrations with WWE. AEW was the response to frustrations with WWE. It was a match made in heaven right up until it very thoroughly wasn't. I understand AEW diehards probably rightfully, felt betrayed by how Punk's run ultimately worked out. But to pretend that Punk's last 3 years in WWE didn't lay the path for AEW, or that a lot of AEW's hottest moments and matches didn't involve Punk, would be childish. I will never, ever have any revisionism to minimize what Cody Rhodes meant to the first year of AEW. He was the face and voice of the brand, a true leader who was foremost in establishing AEW as the real challenger brand they talk so much about. So this isn't rage. This is one of the many missives that, people are writing articles, essentially. There's nothing wrong with this particularly. It's correct. CM Punk's pipe bomb promo led to a certain level of fan dissension in WWE. That fan dissension bubbled and bubbled and bubbled, and literally Meltzer and all of these guys directed all of that fan hatred towards New Japan, which of course saying, hey, if you guys hate WWE, we're going to push New Japan on you, until those people started to accept New Japan. Some of them left, but some of them accepted New Japan, which means they accepted the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega as really guys who were doing something new and doing something different. Now, that energy that was built up from CM Punk, that was taken to New Japan, given to Omega and the Bucks, and then later Cody when he came over, that is what the same energy that AEW was built off of. So yes, it was absolutely seemingly a perfect fit for CM Punk to join AEW, but the issue became managing the situation. All right, so you can't manage it. It was one of those things where it was so outrageous because, to be quite honest, a lot of it is so unrealistic. People's demands were so unrealistic that it was never going to be properly harnessed anyway. This is what mob mentality is about. The mob is not reasonable. The mob rages, and the mob looks for reasons to rage, and the mob wants to rage. So while some of them went to New Japan and found new guys to like, and a lot of those guys are in AEW now, and those same fans are kind of like, I don't really care. It was always just impotent rage towards WWE. But over time, of course, the fans want things to be made right. And AEW, as the babyface promotion at the time, were all about making things right. They were about taking things that WWE had screwed up and fixing them. The Owen Hart Classic or the Owen Hart Tournament, Andrade, Malachi Black, Chris Jericho, all these guys that Even as we said before, guys like Paul White and Mark Henry, who were released from WWE, and they went out there saying WWE doesn't know how to treat the legends and all this kind of stuff. It became a place where we can rub stuff in WWE's face. It was very, very much a let's build on the energy, because we finally have a platform in which to do whatever we want, to let Vince know how we feel. And then over time, it started to change, not just because WWE changed in the later years of Vince and in the early days of Triple H. That was a big part of it. But another issue was that AEW couldn't manage what they were gifted with. This wasn't something they created. It was something that was created and then given to them. They were given a power that they had no earthly idea what to do with it, except try to exploit it. And they did a good job of exploiting it. CM Punk did some really good stuff in AEW, despite the fact that I don't like him. But they did a piss poor job of managing that frustration, of handling it. And it goes to show that it was unnatural to them in the first place. So, because they didn't know how to manage it, there was only going to be a certain amount of time before the thing disintegrated anyway. AEW was always going to be split between the people who were there from the beginning and the people who jumped on later. And the fans have always split between people who were there from the beginning and people who jumped on later. And because AEW has an almost cult-like fan base, it's always primacy given to people who were there at the beginning. Like, here's another tweet from a similar account that says CM Punk rejected the initial AEW deal that was offered to him, declined to come in during the pandemic, and only debuted 2.5 years after this. After the creation of AEW. Hard to call him a foundational part, since the gap between him leaving ROH and joining AEW was 16 years, 7 of which he spent sitting at home writing comic books and fighting in UFC. He went to WWE to make more money before. He went to WWE to make money now. Well, yes, because this is the business of making money. But it wasn't his fault that there was not another big money promotion that existed when he left. Now, I did say before, he could have went to TNA. He could have went to Japan, which is what most people would have wanted him to do. But could they afford it? The style in Japan is a lot more physical. He probably could have done that, but whatever. And TNA was small time. It has been small time for a long time. And kudos to TNA for trying to get CM Punk. I saw that article before of, they made a real generous offer to both him and Will Ospreay, and they lost out to WWE and AEW respectively. But let's be honest, they were not really on the radar, if we be honest. But CM Punk planted the seed that AEW grew from. I don't see how you can debate that. But there is, I guess you can debate it, because the frustration for WWE has always existed. AEW was the newest beneficiary of it, but before that it was TNA and Ring of Honor and ECW and WCW, and there's always been that WWF is the market leader. I can't stand what they do. I hate Vince. I hate this. I hate that. It would be nice if we had another option. And then people would try to force this other option to exist. And then WWE would intelligently either take important pieces of it, or they wait for them to flame out. And usually those two things go hand in hand. When Cody Rhodes was removed from AEW, a lot of nastiness fell out of that hole, right? Instead of somebody plugging that hole, which we thought CM Punk was going to do, what we started seeing was rot and moss and pus coming out of that thing. We saw that it was really a problem under the hood of AEW. And then everybody blamed CM Punk for it. So when he left, everybody was like, oh, the cancer is gone. It's great. And I was like, well, maybe. But let's continue. This one is particularly weird. Fact is, AEW gave Phil everything he wanted and more. They even built Collision around him, and he still wasn't satisfied. He caused trouble in order to get out of his contract. He had also met with Triple H while under contract with AEW. I like him as a wrestler, but don't trust him. What are you talking about? CM Punk went on an apology tour, essentially, and tried to apologize pretty much to everybody who was, that he had done wrong and he had issues with the exception of like Colt Cabana. But, everybody knows that CM Punk was putting out there that he wanted to apologize to the Elite. He wanted to talk to those guys and work it out. They didn't want to talk to him and didn't want to work it out, but they wanted to keep poking the bear. Again, I dislike CM Punk quite a bit, but the Elite are the problem here. All right. I was defending CM Punk because the Elite and their fucking idiots, Jungle Boy and, Brandon Cutler and all these guys kept poking the bear. They could have just said, it's squashed, it's over. We might not work together, but everything's going to be fine. But no, it was week after week of negativity, all kinds of horrible shit coming out, them making fun of him in promos and making fun of him in matches. Come on, man. Are we going to ignore that shit? Really? It's ridiculous, bro. This is pretty stupid. Oh, here we go. Punk came in after AEW was a success. He was nice to have till he wasn't. Nothing more, nothing less. You can't employ someone who assaults coworkers on the regular. That has gone to work for the guy who fired him on his wedding day says a lot. He had TNA, New Japan, or MMA to work in. Look, you have to consider money. Not everybody's going to have a love of the game attitude. He was making a certain amount of money when he walked away from WWE. Why would he take a severe pay cut to go work in New Japan? Or spend who knows how long in Japan to work in Japan? And TNA, you talk about a pay cut, unless he was going to get ownership stake, they had no chance. Unless he was going to get an ownership stake in the company, right? They had no money. They have no money. TNA, Impact, they generate fucking no money. What money are they going to pay him with? Like, he's beyond the years of hot dogs and hamburgers and we'll give you points off the gate. Like, what are you talking about? This guy's, 38, 40 years old or whatever at the time. You can't do that. No, forget it. You got to be kidding me. Here's Ryan Satin with probably the best response so far. I just don't like him personally. The guy once threatened to punch me in the face and make my life a living hell because I couldn't convince my bosses at a huge news operation to kill a story for him. Should I be a fan after that? Are you serious? Are you serious? He threatened to punch you in the face? And this is just now coming out? Brother, I would have absolutely told that story a long time ago. Typical. Oh my God. Everybody's making fun of him for the promo he cut on MJF too, which is, and the one specifically is, the grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. And that was, an important promo, but he was in good graces at the time. He didn't know that the kids were going to act the way that they acted. So, I mean, it is what it is. He was basically forced out, I know his own behavior. I'm not saying that, his behavior was above board or anything, but he was put in a position where he was surrounded by sharks, all these people who didn't like him and wanted him out. And basically they did whatever they could to get a reaction out of him. And then they finally got it, but it stands to reason that, and I didn't hear the opposite from anybody, that CM Punk was trying to work with these guys. He was trying to apologize. He was trying to talk things out. I heard nothing from the Elite side, which is Punk, which is Meltzer and Alvarez and all these guys, that wasn't true. So if one guy is trying to say, hey, we got into a fight, we got into an issue, let's talk it out, and you're like, no, I'm going to hold a grudge, and then my stooges online and my stooges in the back and my stooges in the media are going to keep taking shots at you, then yeah, we're going to have heat. Sorry. And eventually you're going to get what you asked for, which is a fight. So whatever. Tony Khan firing CM Punk was the biggest mistake in professional wrestling history. Definitely business-wise. I don't think that's the case. It was a pretty big mistake, but I'm pretty sure if we could think of things that were worse. I don't want to try to put that stress on my brain right now, but I'm pretty sure if I sat down with a pen and a pad, I could come up with some really worse creative decisions. Worse than firing CM Punk, who, was a draw for the company, but was running out of gas, was always injured, and the locker room hated him. A lot of people in the locker room hated him. So he made a business decision, and then he ended up making a personal one, where he felt like his life was in danger. So that was very weird. There will be people that will call this man a hypocrite, but know that they are wrong. The truth is he was pushed there by inept management by AEW. In other words, AEW screwed AEW. To a degree, I think. Look, I don't want to let people off the hook for their own personal behavior because you are responsible for your reaction to things. At the same time, though, if Tony Khan had better managed the situation, forced the sit down between these guys, said nobody's going to get paid, nobody's going to get booked until we work this thing out. You don't got to work together, but all of this sniping in the media, all this kind of stuff has to stop. He didn't do that. Instead, he let it go on and on and on and on, and it eventually reached a crescendo, which it always does. How do people think that you can have heat forever and nothing ever comes of it? Heat is a pressure cooker. The longer you let it build, the more thorough it gets, Whenever a hypocrite outs himself, I am thankful for Jon Moxley. Never once let me down as a fan. Whether he is sticking skewers in his head in front of 81,000, which is really 71 or 72,000, fighting Minoru Suzuki with an eye patch, or smooching Effie on a random GCW show, there is only one him. So CM Punk is a hypocrite, but not Jon Moxley, because it hasn't happened yet. Whenever somebody leaves WWE, just get in the habit of saying yet. All right? He hasn't come back yet. So here's another one. CM Punk is one of the most talented, compelling, and entertaining pro wrestlers ever. He also just submitted himself as the biggest hypocrite in the history of pro wrestling. Both can be true. Well, I don't think that he's one of the biggest hypocrite in the history of pro wrestling. I'm pretty sure if we sat down with a pen and a pad, we probably could come up with people who are bigger hypocrites. But yeah, the guy went to work with somebody who was willing to pay him, and he was willing to put water under the bridge. I don't understand why the heat had to be permanent. Guys talk things out. Apparently, that's what him and Triple H did. They talked it out. That's what men do. I'm pretty sure if he's got any heat with Seth Rollins, they're going to talk it out. That's what men do. They're going to be forced to work together. So might as well work together and at least understand each other. And if you can't figure out a way to work in the ring, at least you're not arguing over Twitter. You're not arguing through the dirt sheets, and everybody's going to be okay. Here's another one. A huge part of what makes CM Punk so compelling to me is how uncomfortably human he is, how flawed he is, and how clearly those flaws manifest in everything he does. It's so weird to see it framed like this. My goodness. How uncomfortably human he is. What? Oh my God. Ugh. Punk was saying things privately as recently as a few months ago about hating Triple H. He called Regal, a stooge for Triple H, to his face. This stuff is still very recent. That's true. If it happened. If that happened, then it's true that it happened not too long ago. But, again, people are in a position where I don't think he has to work with Regal because Regal works with NXT. And maybe they'll talk it out and they'll shake hands and that'll be it. And, I'm not sitting here hoping for the best. I expect this thing to blow up, but I'm just saying people talk things out and the truth can be temporary. It doesn't have to be some kind of 7-year war, you know. It doesn't have to be like a permanent fight. Here's one that's particularly unhinged. Cody Rhodes and CM Punk both talking all that shit in AEW, only to go back to WWE within 18 months of each other and help Triple H and Vince McMahon in their goal to try to put AEW out of business, cost their friends jobs, themselves and their colleagues or future potential colleagues better pay and pushes like they're all currently getting because of AEW's existence. What an industry. Wait a minute. Wait 1 second. For the record, Cody Rhodes left. CM Punk was fired. Okay? And he was fired, and who's to say that he can't go work somewhere else? He's supposed to go do what you want him to do, not what pay, you know, like the guys, look, he doesn't have a family, he doesn't have children or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure he helps take care of people. I'm sure he has a mortgage and, you know, he wants to buy nice things. He wants to buy more comic books and video games or whatever the fuck. You know, cut him some slack. Cut him some slack. You know, like it's not that they're not trying to destroy AEW and put him out of business. AEW put Cody Rhodes in a position where he left. They put Punk in a position where he got himself fired. And the rot is from within. The call is coming from within the house. You want to blame Cody, you want to blame Punk. The issue is Tony Khan. That's the issue. The issue is not the talent who has an option and goes somewhere else. The issue is Tony. Sometimes Vince was his own worst enemy too. Sometimes Vince pushed away people that he shouldn't have. Cody and CM Punk being two of those guys. A bunch of those people ended up in AEW. A lot of people who Vince, you know, mistreated, quote unquote, over the years ended up in TNA or ended up in ECW or ended up in WCW. That's the nature of the business. You know? That's just kind of how it is. I don't understand where you guys are coming from with this. Here's another one. Cody, I get because dude is a politician in training. But Punk cried for years about how the company nearly killed him, only for him to pull this. I don't respect it at all. Well, that is a good point. But you also have to deal with the incredible amounts of bitterness that existed. I mean, the most interesting thing about all this is how everybody knows that CM Punk loves Bret the Hitman Hart, right? How many crazy things did Bret Hart say about Vince, about WWE? Still, to this day, he still talks about that negatively about them. You know, Bret Hart criticizes the matches, he criticizes the talent, he criticizes, you know, the promoters and all this kind of stuff. But ultimately, Bret Hart still signs those Legends contracts. He still does business with WWE. And he hasn't been on TV in a while, but I'm pretty sure he would if he could, or if he was asked. But I know he's in an advanced age, maybe he doesn't want to. And time, money, and patience can handle most of the problems in the world. If you got enough money, enough time, and you're patient, you can fix a lot of problems. And holding a grudge forever, usually, if you live long enough, the grudge will subside to a degree. But it has to be some forgiveness on both sides. And if people are offering you the olive branch that, hey, I'm willing to let this thing go. Again, Vince apologized to CM Punk on television, you know, in the Broken Skull sessions. He didn't want to do business with him anymore, but he apologized for firing him on his wedding day. And he probably didn't even know it was his wedding day, if we're being honest, because it's Vince McMahon, who likely didn't have any idea that something other than a wrestling show was going on that day. The next gentleman is Jim Valley. He works for F4W Online. He does podcasts for the Wrestling Observer. And he says, quote, imagine being a WWE talent. CM Punk bumps you down the card and you only learned of the situation at the first bars of Cult of Personality. Punk will change the locker room dynamic every time he's unhappy he talks. It's going to test Triple H's management skills and patience. That is true. That is very true. The issue here is with WWE, if he talks to management, if he pushes Triple H has the experience now, having done this for a while with some very difficult people backstage, that he knows how to handle this stuff now. I can understand Triple H as an in-ring talent, competing in the same realm with these guys, having a different perspective. When you're a player coach, it's different from when you're just a coach. CM back in the day, CM Punk was dealing with Triple H, who wanted to wrestle and book, wrestle and promote, wrestle and pick the next stars and who he wanted to work with and everything. That was always not going to work out. That was the exact same position he was dealing with the EVPs. You have people who have authority on backstage and also are super over and popular on screen. And there can be issues there. There's going to be a lot of egos there. A lot of that stuff has changed. Triple H can't wrestle anymore. So there's no competition between him and Punk for spots. There's no competition for over the push. There's no Triple H is trying to diminish CM Punk because I don't want to look like I'm a lesser star or anything stupid like that. It's now about how can we talk this thing out. 10 years ago, you wanted to be on top. I also wanted to stay on top, and it was an issue. But now, physically, can't go anymore. The ego that Triple H had that probably rubbed CM Punk the wrong way, it's gone. Literally, they can't occupy the same space anymore. It's over. So now Punk gets a fresh start, and Triple H has more experience managing talent. He has more experience dealing with crises because, he was dealing with the Vince McMahon crisis of last year or 2 years ago. Dealing with, Bruno, bringing Bruno back in, helping to bring Warrior back in. These things are very, very important. These are skills that he learned over time. I can see him using those skills better now than before. Again, who knows how long this is going to last? But as Triple H said, it had to be a desire on both sides. And for a long time, there was some desire from CM Punk back when he was working on backstage. He supposedly put out feelers, then earlier this year. But, WWE was like, we're not interested, yada, yada, yada. But now Triple H is like, look, we're trying to babyface ourselves in front of the audience. This is a prime way of stealing that energy I was talking about earlier and stealing it back. A lot of people who hated WWE because they feel like their favorite wrestler was done wrong, if you do their quote-unquote favorite wrestler right, then that hatred goes away. Again, time heals all wounds. And people will feel, probably at the end of it, whatever this thing is, assuming it doesn't blow up immediately. Assuming it doesn't blow up within the next couple of months, if we're being honest. If CM Punk gets his big WrestleMania main event and all this kind of stuff, people will feel CM Punk finally got what he deserved in WWE. I don't need to hate them anymore. Same thing with Bret Hart, same thing with Ultimate Warrior, same thing with like Hall and Nash and all those guys who came back. If the fans feel that WWE has done their talent, their favorite guy right, the hatred disappears. So that's the one thing that's in the modern day that WWE can still be reamed for with CM Punk. Now Triple H is going to tackle trying to fix that. Good luck. Good luck. And here's one. To Jack Perry, thank you, sincerely, WWE fans like me. Wow. That was a perfect one. An absolutely perfect response, given the situation. If it wasn't for Jack Perry, he wouldn't have been back. CM Punk is gone all because this motherfucker, Jack Perry, wanted to use real glass in the 0 hour of a pay-per-view. Wow. Thank you, Jack Perry. The people who are thanking Jack Perry is absolutely ridiculous. Phil Brooks, CM Punk is back in WWE. Tony Khan in the mud. Ryback has to retire. Thank you, Jack Perry. Empty-headed dumb fuck Adam Page. Young Bucks, Colt Cabana, Dave Meltzer, Chris Jericho, Tony Snowman Khan, and Mindy's Bakery for making this possible. Good night and God bless. Wow. Holy hell. Holy hell. Are you serious? Jesus Christ. Brian Last, he tweeted out, if Jungle Boy had behaved, there's a chance Punk would have been working Collision tonight. That's true. It's just a fact. It's just a fact, Jack. Look, business was not that great when CM Punk was there. There was still a lot of empty buildings. There was still some, ratings tumbling and all this kind of stuff. But it wasn't in free fall like it's been recently. He should have been on Collision. They built an entire show around this guy, and somehow the Elite still found a way to run him off. This is a generational run that the Elite has been on in killing the company, not drawing ratings themselves, not selling merchandise themselves, but through the power of being EVPs and, of course, as I've said, the heart and soul of AEW, they managed to kill the business. Wow. All right, let's get into some funnier ones. Tony Khan really chose the Elite over Cody Rhodes and Jungle Jack fucking Perry over CM Punk. F money, friends mean more, but hey, at least AEW has Will Ospreay to help fill those 3/4 empty buildings. And he's not fully coming in until February. So they signed Will Ospreay, but he's not actually coming in until February. So good luck. You've got another 2 months to get this thing together. 3 months actually. Tony Khan crying somewhere, fam. Fumbled him for Jungle Boy. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Oh brother. Tony Khan is the single biggest idiot in the entire wrestling business for letting CM Punk go and not fixing things the way they should have been in AEW. What a fucking boob. Amazing. There is nothing wrong with that statement. There is nothing wrong with that statement. And it's very unnecessary. Tony Khan made sure to make the CM Punk Jungle Boy situation public. Even the part that Punk lunged at Tony, then stating, quote, he feared for his life so that WWE wouldn't touch Punk, only for WWE to sign him 2 months later. And that is facts, and I think that he made that decision feeling pretty confident that CM Punk was not going to go back to WWE. And I think I'm going to speak for myself. I was pretty confident that he wasn't going to go back. But I got to say, I'm very impressed at Triple H's ability to make deals. We'll see if he actually able to manage the CM Punk thing better than everybody else, because he seemed to be a little bit more patient than most other people. This is a good one. CM Punk is back in WWE and Jungle Boy isn't even back from suspension. He has been suspended since August. They sent his punk ass home. Look, he might end up being the AEW devil, even though I'm starting to believe it's going to be Sammy Guevara. But, you're not, don't listen to me. I don't know nothing. Tony Khan fired CM Punk for a fight with Jungle Boy. Tony basically just gave WWE a golden treasure for free. Well, it wasn't for free. It's certainly going to cost him. It's certainly going to cost Triple H quite a bit. And plus, so CM Punk is not going to be around forever. He's 45. He probably got another 2 or 3 years, and then he's going to be calling it quits. He just, in an Edge type of situation, wants to end his career on his own terms. He don't want to end it negatively, having been fired. So that's cool. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Not to me anyway. Here's another one. If I'm Tony Khan, I'm firing Jungle Boy and Colt Cabana right now. And then somebody followed up and says, add the Young Bucks with that as well. Look, you already made the decision. So I wouldn't fire them. I would have fired them before if they were causing problems. But you're already in the hole. I don't think firing Colt Cabana would mean much of anything. But you're really just going to piss off the rest of your fan base. And you still have a fan base. There's still 100,000 people buying pay-per-views when it comes to AEW. 110, 120,000 people buying pay-per-views. Why piss those people off by firing the Young Bucks? You've already made the decision to keep them. You've already re-signed them. Why fire them now? Why piss off the few people that you got left? Now all you really got is the elite friends left. That's pretty much it. So it's very unfortunate. Jungle Boy really changed the course of WWE history. Cry me a river, AEW marks. Oof. Oh my God. Jesus. That's tough. That's tough right there. That's tough. Here's a regular reply guy. I'm surprised it took me so long to find this one. I do love people acting like I can't believe Tony Khan bungled CM Punk, unlike the Great Machine WWE. He literally walked out of WWE during WrestleMania season when they had a big match planned for him, and then WWE got into a proxy lawsuit with him. WWE and AEW are tied 1-1. Okay, I could see why you would say that. AEW just signed Will fucking Ospreay in his prime, and you think they're worried about CM Punk? I would hope not. I would hope they are very excited about this whole Will Ospreay thing, because that's one of the things that they got. Hopefully their fans are very excited about this Will Ospreay thing, but they lost quite a few of the fans that they had because they fired CM Punk. There was an air that left the room when that happened, admittedly so. And, they never really recovered, and they still haven't recovered. And I don't know if Will Ospreay is going to be the guy that's going to be able to pull them back from the brink, but we'll see. I personally want to give the utmost gratitude to Tony Khan and AEW. Without them, Cody Rhodes and CM Punk would never set foot in WWE again. Thanks to Tony, we all get to see WWE thriving again. Oh, that's sick. That's sick. That's sick. That's sick. Tony Khan chose Colt Cabana, Jack Perry, and Brandon Cutler over that man. Insanity. I don't think he was given much of a choice. That's the thing. Like, he wasn't given that much of a choice, Once the fight and all this kind of stuff started happening, there's not much you can do, It is what it is. Tony Khan's team trying to stop him from tweeting, and it's a gif of a guy being tackled by like 100 men. Yeah, Tony Khan wants to tweet so badly. He wants to tweet so badly, but it would only make him look worse if he actually tweeted anything. Anything outside of congratulations or something like that, he's probably better off not saying anything. But that's going to be a very, very interesting piece of business at the next scrum, at the World's End scrum or whatever they call it. When all of this goes down and he's in front of people again, and they're going to say, Tony, what do you think about CM Punk going to WWE? And he's going to have to say no comment, right? He's just going to have to say no comment. Or put over Punk, say, oh, I was glad to work with them, but things wasn't working out, yada, yada, yada. But, interesting. I wouldn't say much of anything. Personally, I wouldn't say shit. If that was me, I wouldn't say anything. Respect the commitment to the Bret Hart tribute by going crawling back to WWE after they tried ruining your life. Ooh, yikes. That's angry. That's some really angry stuff right there. That's bitterness right there, brother. Ain't nothing but vengefulness right there. AEW fans are so greedy. It's the best roster on the planet. Let the fed kids have their Pepsi. Adult stands have adult beverages. And then there's a picture of all of these guys like Edge and Jericho and Samoa Joe, etc. Adult beverages like human blood, for instance. You know, because that's what they're doing over there. In order to get a huge pop, you have to drink somebody's blood. So, not good. I can tell you that much. Here's another one. If you're really not sure why a lot of the core AEW fan base turned on Muffins, let me clarify it for you. He went after Kenny, the Bucks, Hangman, Mox, Jericho, the legitimate foundations of All Elite Wrestling, the guys who took a risk, strapping AEW on their backs. They are AEW 100. Ooh-wee. Look, I'm not going to debate this situation. I'm just going to say AEW literally exists because of the negative sentiment created by WWE. Even the negative sentiment from WCW closing and ECW closing. They tried to capitalize on it in Ring of Honor and in TNA and in Japan, and it didn't work. Somebody with some money finally showed up and invested in it. Now, a guy like Moxley has said numerous times that he would have left regardless. But that don't mean that he wouldn't have turned around and came back sooner rather than later. AEW is probably what kept him away from the company for so long. Because I definitely could have seen, and he said it numerous times, that he got really frustrated with the writing staff and stuff like that. But he didn't necessarily have a problem with management, and he certainly didn't have a problem with money. His issue was creative, and that's why he left, and he was leaving anyway. But this was 4 or 5 years ago. I could see Moxley going to the Indies for 2 years and then coming back, if that was going to be the case. But now AEW exists. He doesn't have to come back. He can go and spend some more time there. And Jericho certainly would have come back by now. So let's not overthink this thing, all right? Because I'm pretty sure Moxley would have been back by now, and Jericho certainly would have been back in WWE by now. It's just that, yeah, they took a chance on AEW. That's great, because a mark was willing to give them tons of money to do so. They didn't do it for free. They were hedging. They were guys that WWE would have taken back anyway. Same thing with, Bryan Danielson. Same thing with like Adam Cole. These are guys who are not really taking a huge risk by joining AEW because they would have come back anyway. And Vince would have let them come back. Triple H will welcome them back. No bridges were burned, really. What's the problem? There would have been no real issue in them coming back. So it was kind of like, well, if this thing fumbles, then so what? That's like saying Kurt Angle took a huge risk on TNA. He didn't really. TNA existed when he got there. He worked there for a long time, and then he had the ability to go back. Same thing as Rob Van Dam, same thing as Jeff Hardy, and so many other guys who went to TNA for a while. The big stars. I'm not talking about like Orlando Jordan or anything like that. But if you're a big star in wrestling, you can leave WWE for a short time. Whether it's injury, whether you're just frustrated with the creative, maybe you just hate Vince for a little while. And then in a couple of years, you talk it out and you come back. It's just the nature of the business. Holy shit, Matt Riddle actually tweeted about this. Hey, WWE, you thought I was hard to deal with? Have fun with 0-2 at CM Punk. Ooh, brother. Now, the thing is, Riddle, they tried, man. They really tried with Riddle. But he putting a lot of heat on himself early in his run, too, with the Goldberg stuff and the Brock Lesnar stuff. And they still tried to work with him, but, outside the ring activities. But I'm glad that he was watching the show. But he's seemingly getting roasted in the quote tweets. And it was hilarious. It's quite hilarious, really. And the probably my favorite burn towards Matt Riddle in response to this, Punk is undefeated against drug tests, pal. Which, that one scalped this guy. What a vicious attack on the character of Matt Riddle. Here's another one. Funny, 0-2 is also your wellness policy record. they killing this man. God damn. God damn. At least he can stay sober. Oof. Think of the money they'll save from your drug tests. Holy shit. I'm going to try not to turn this into a Matt Riddle roasting video, but my goodness. I'm going to save this. I might have to end up doing this Matt Riddle roasting video. I mean, Jesus Christ. I didn't know it was going to be that bad. Here's an interesting one. The fact Tony Khan announced Will Ospreay at Full Gear when he's not even free to perform in AEW yet tells me he knew what was happening last night and used it for damage control. The annals of wrestling will not be kind on the developments to Khan. Now, I don't think so. I think that he looked at the advanced buy rates and the advanced ticket sales for his show, and he said, I need a gimmick to boost this thing, but I can't book any more matches. So he said, how about if I tell people I'm going to sign a big talent? Maybe they'll come to see who it is. Maybe they'll buy the show to see who it is. And I think that's what he was doing. I don't think it was, oh, I know CM Punk's going to go to WWE. I think he just looked at the advance and said, we need more people in the seats, and we need more advanced pay-per-view buys. And he tried that gimmick. You know what I'm saying? Here's one. This one's pretty funny. For the record, fuck corporate monkey punk. Fuck nepotism Levesque. Lavek, which is not how you spell his name. And fuck the Fed. Well, thanks. This is very useful. Very useful information here. And everybody is just bombarding AEW fans with Crimea River, which is insane. It is absolutely insane. How many times I've read Crimea River on this? It's the second most popular phrase outside of CM Punk's name in general. It's Crimea River. Here's a beautiful one. Do I think CM Punk is a toxic lunatic? Yes. Do I think CM Punk is a massive hypocrite? Yes. Do I think he's gone back through spite? Yes. Will I watch Raw for the first time in about 2.5 years this week? Yes. So, gotta respect it. You can't debate it. The facts are there. Everybody's going to be interested in what he's going to do. So, what can you say? I'm not even a big CM Punk fan, but Jesus, if I'm not interested in what they're going to do with him, so there's always that option, that curiosity, that's always going to be there. Here's one, and it's particularly unhinged. The CM Punk deal came together 10 days ago, which is when Tony Khan announced he had a big signing for Full Gear. Triple H signing Punk because he whiffed on Will Ospreay is tremendous. My goodness, the pivot. Ooh, that pivot foot is not moving. Boy, look at that. That's NBA level pivoting right there, brother. They couldn't even sign Will Ospreay if they wanted to because he's under contract in New Japan. Again, Tony Khan went to New Japan and said, I want to sign Will Ospreay. And they say, go for it, as long as he works out the rest of his contract. And he was like, sure, he can work out the rest of his contract. WWE never got an opportunity. Again, we could talk here about how, they showed interest. They showed interest in a lot of things. I'm showing some interest in some pancakes right now. But they literally could not sign him. They couldn't even make him really an offer. And because he was under contract to somebody else. Come on, brother. Let's go. This may sound cheesy, but CM Punk returning to WWE really makes me feel like nothing is impossible. No grudge is too deep. No bridge is ever truly burned. The amount of hate this man had towards this company, all the disparaging comments and bad feelings, and yet 9 years later, here he is. Man, if you're holding on to something, let that ish go. I'm truly, truly inspired to let some things go that I've been holding on to for years and step into the next chapter of my life. Anything, and I mean anything, is possible. It took for CM Punk to rejoin WWE for you to... how old is this guy? He's got to be like 23 or something like that, like a really young guy. Otherwise, you would have known this already. Vince put out a documentary shitting on the Ultimate Warrior, and he still came back. Like, he made fun of Hulk Hogan in promo segments. What was this? The Huckster and the Nacho Man. He made fun of those guys. They came back. He sued WCW to stop Scott Hall from doing the Tony Montana voice. They still came back. And, that's the nature of the beast, man. People get over things. Here's one. CM Punk is the wrestling David Koresh. And you know what? That's not far off. I mean, the theme song is called Cult of Personality. And it says like Mussolini. And you look like Kennedy. Like different people who had cult followings. Who gained positions of power and manipulated the masses. That's CM Punk's entire thing. It's literally in the song, if you pay attention. So, yeah. It's always been a cult of CM Punk running around on the internet. And it still exists. I'm pretty sure if you find some way to screw up this WWE run, they'll find some way to blame WWE for it and not look at CM Punk. Now, this one is written in Spanish, okay? But thank God for Google Translate, because I recognized one word in here and was like, please tell me that this is exactly what I think it is, and it is. It says, and I quote, "You hurt us with this decision. If you learned anything from your son, Cody, it is that you can be part of the change and then sell yourself for money. Good luck pushing Powerhouse and being a part of mediocre stories. Today, you are only CM Trader." Trader. I didn't know that trader in Spanish was TRAIDOR, but I used context clues. And boy, what an unhinged this joint is. Trader. He is a hashtag trader. I love it. This is excellent. Oh, brother. Oh, here comes some more of this unadulterated cringe. In hindsight, this makes me hate what happened to Hangman so much more. He was always right. And his title reign, the best thing that happened in AEW's history, got cut short for Punk. Brother, what on earth? You feel bad for Hangman because he started all of this nonsense and started all of this heat and is one of the reasons why this thing happened? What a moronic take. Who the hell cared about Hangman fucking Page? Are you serious? Oh my goodness. Is this about pettiness, one-upsmanship, and t-shirt sales? Or doing what's best for WWE? Because WWE was thriving and seemed to have a relatively healthy locker room. Everybody grows, everybody changes. Feels like something Tony Khan could have said during Punk's honeymoon phase in AEW. Tripp saying it now seems odd. Well, yeah, because he's got to try to put a rose on this thing and try to cover up how crappy it might be. But, again, we won't know until we see it. I think most people who know CM Punk knows that this thing is going to implode and it won't be long. But other people are looking at it and saying, maybe he'll change. And I think the maybe he'll change people are going to end up winning out in the end. Here's one that is very interesting. Neither this or Punk's mannerisms when he returned at the end of Survivor Series scream guy who's particularly excited or emotional to be doing this. This is a business decision, which is cool. This is a business. I was expecting to be more disappointed if and when this happened, but I don't know. It's not inspiring much emotion in me. Guess part of me had already resigned to it happening. Now, despite that kind of circular thing, CM Punk did look kind of emotional, but he wasn't almost weepy like he was when he returned from AEW. When he returned to AEW, rather. But that's mostly because he wasn't gone as long. Second is it was an interesting development for us. I really do wonder how it felt for him. That was really my question, is how did it feel for him? And he seemingly was excited and seemingly was happy to be in WWE. but or rather to get the opportunity to know that the door wasn't shut. But he didn't scream like he was super happy. It wasn't like when Cody returned and he had tears in his eyes and all that kind of stuff. You know, so he wasn't as emotional as you would think. But still, I do think that this was mostly business, that he came back to sort of finish his career on his own way. Here's another one. If there's one thing about Punk, is that he is fueled by pettiness, ego, and anger. TK gave Punk every reason to go to WWE and play ball. Triple H and management just need to keep him focused because a pissed off Punk is a money printing machine. That's largely why I think he'll succeed in this run. This gives him the opportunity to do everything he wanted, headlining at WrestleMania, probably night one with Seth, rubbing Triple H's nose in the fact that he is a top star, and most importantly, showing TK that he royally fucked up. The other interesting thing is that Cody talking about the locker room being the best he's been a part of in terms of working together to make a great show. I've said a ton. A huge problem with AEW is that so much of the roster backstabs and goes into business for themselves without considering how it might hurt the product. Punk will need to prove he can be a team player, but he should be going into an environment where his peers are actually professional adults and not boys from the jungle. I saw what you did there. Not particularly clever, but very interesting. Here's an interesting one. Punk is not a hypocrite for coming back. Punk has specific problems with WWE that are now fixed. He's friends with Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel, so he doesn't have to worry about Vince or Triple H, and the management of the wrestler's health is significantly better than it was in 2014. Well, that last line is absolutely true. WWE is constantly getting better with giving guys time off and giving guys breaks. There was an interview that Punk did, I don't know, I think it was before he went to AEW, where Punk was surprised to hear that guys was just randomly taking days off, giving vacations, rather than just working through injuries and all this kind of stuff. They've been a little bit more caring the last couple of years. Concussion protocols and all that kind of stuff are now in place. So, yes, I can see that things have changed. I don't know what his relationship is with Ari Emanuel, but Triple H, of course, has said that those guys were not involved, that the higher-ups at TKO, which I don't know if it includes Vince or not, were not involved. Now, of course, he also said that it was just him and Nick Khan that knew about this, and that's not possible considering the cameramen knew to be in place, considering WWE Shop knew to post about it. There was all kinds of graphics and stuff made. Then it comes out that the talent were probably told right before they went out there that he was going to be showing up. So Triple H is not, he's not the most accurate source of information. He's a poor historian, as we call it. Here's another one. TK inspired this man to unretire. Then with his ineptitude drove him into a man he hated's arms. The tears have been real salty, and I love it. Oh my goodness. Here's somebody who's very, very angry. CM Punk is a hypocrite. It's not about a grudge at all. It's about the ethics. You are being disingenuous about why people take issue with his hypocrisy. It's pretty obvious. Seems to be based out of wrestling. That's why it's different. Being against anti-worker stuff, anti-Saudi, pro-other good causes. He says, we are fameless peons. For someone like him, it's easy to just not go to WWE and uphold his ethics. Ethics. That's what he wants you to do. He wants you to stand on business. You need to be moral, CM Punk. What you're doing is immoral, sir. Going back to WWE, it's like, look, things changed. Things changed. He's talked to people. He's gotten over it. He's experienced being a big star in a small pond when it comes to AEW and how the piranha, I guess you could say. So, like, he's dealt with the sharks of WWE, the Undertakers, the Triple H's, the Rocks, those guys, and how they do business. And then he's seen that the piranha can be much worse. That while the Rock will tweet at you directly, saying that, I draw more than you, shut the fuck up, punk, versus guys who won't say anything to your face, won't talk to you, but they'll feed information to Brian Alvarez. they'll feed information to, Nick Houseman or whatever. So which one would you rather deal with? I would rather deal with somebody who at the very least would use his own face and voice to say something rather than people who use proxies. Who the hell wants to deal with that? It's going to cause you to be paranoid all the goddamn time. Now you see the difference between AEW management and WWE management. This is a huge L for AEW because TK didn't know how to manage problems before they became disasters. He lost his biggest star and the low ticket sales are the proof. WWE knows how to manage someone like Punk and the high merchandise sales will be the proof. So Cody leaves and becomes the biggest face in WWE. Jade leaves and her career is buzzing. And now Punk will main event WrestleMania with Rollins. Well, at least AEW has edge. Now, wait a minute. Let's not give Triple H too much credit because we don't know what's going to happen yet. We don't know if they're going to bump heads in a couple of weeks or what's going on. But Triple H has more experience than Tony Khan in handling these situations. And then if all else fails, he's got Vince. If Vince somehow doesn't want to be involved with this, he's got Nick Khan. So he has other people that he can work with in this situation. Tony Khan is getting whispers from people that he trusts, but they're all talent. Whether it's, the Bucks or Jericho or whatever, they're all talent. They all have their own egos and stuff like that to deal with. Triple H has executives, people who have been outside the ring for a while and advisors who have been around for a while to help him in this situation. But I'm pretty sure he's not going to need that much help. He's got to know by now how to handle this situation. WWE can have the cancer. Just remember, Punk was fired from AEW, not contract expired or laid off. Terminated. Wasn't there a thread a long time ago that discussed that one reason Cody left AEW as due to Punk coming in? I wonder what Cody thinks now. As for Seth, it could be a work, but Seth has been very public with his thoughts on Punk. Great worker, terrible personality, which is why he was fired from AEW. Backstage politics, treating people in a less than humane way, and showing disrespect to managers and people above him. I'm not advocating for AEW here. I just think this is a major mistake on WWE's part. But it goes back to what is going on in WWE. They are not building young wrestlers. They are bringing in the old timers only at this point. Rock, Cena, Orton, now Punk. What next? Goldberg again? Maybe this is one reason why Will Ospreay didn't sign with WWE and why Jade did. Jade can't wrestle, so she's in it for the Ronda Rousey payday. Wow. There's a lot of bitterness there. Yeah, CM Punk was fired. You say you're not advocating? You sound like you're advocating to me. But NXT is built around young wrestlers. And NXT is not going to be on national television. So it ought to be fine. So not that big of a deal. This is quite astonishing, actually. This guy seems like a totally self-righteous, egotistical person. He left wrestling around a decade back. He was pretty popular, but he had a good career till that point. Nothing legendary, but good. He was good in the ring, but he have so many better than him now. But such as his staying power that his return so many years down the line, when he is older, when he has a bad history with AEW, still feels like the biggest thing ever, and he dwarfs even the biggest newer stars. Love him or hate him, he has something special. I guess that is personality or character. Yes, he got people to feel, people felt a certain way and he tapped into that zeitgeist, which is why we say earlier that he's one of the catalysts behind AEW. Being able to tap that vein of frustration among a certain fan base and brought that to the forefront. There's nothing wrong with that. So, that's why he continues to get the reactions, despite the fact that I don't like him either, All right, we're going to be wrapping this thing up pretty soon. Let's go. Let's continue. The amount of terrible WWE programming I'm going to have to sit through because the Bucks are soft isn't fair. Then he says, the Bucks are soft as triple ply toilet paper, which is appropriate because they're also the shits. Oh, brother. And they're gonna repackage them eventually. Jesus Christ. Now, this gentleman that we're going to read a series of tweets from, I think he is a lucha libre guy, and he was inspired to write this missive on AEW, CM Punk, and surprisingly, Andrade El Idolo. Now we're gonna wait till I read this thing. When you're number two, you need to have troops who have that underdog mentality or believe in the company, the vision their boss has. Otherwise, you run the risk of a defeatist attitude taking over. Look at the difference in mentalities when the tide shifted in the Monday Night Wars. Andrade needed to go months ago. Anyone who knows him knows his point of view, AEW, and his current boss. Exact kind of person you don't want hanging around because that shit can spread. If he thinks the grass is greener, let him find out. Devote that precious TV time to someone invested in AEW. The fact that he is still cutting promos on TV that could easily be cleaned up by someone just fixing words he is using incorrectly says everything about his mentality. He's all about Andrade, and how dare anyone tell him otherwise. He's bigger than AEW. Cut bait before it spreads more. His tweet tonight wasn't a just supporting my bro deal. It was 100% I'd be there too if I could. This the kind of shit Tony Khan needs to squash. Handing this guy to WWE is addition by subtraction. Let him be Paul's headache again. Save the tweet thread, you'll see. Any week where Ricky Stark never touches a microphone, but Andrade is given 2 minutes for a pre-tape he didn't want to do a second take on because I nailed it, bro, is an indictment on the current AEW decision-making process. Yes, I am done now. Wow. This is incredible. Andrade. What did Andrade do? So that made me go and look to see what Andrade did. I had to go and see what Andrade actually did that caused this kind of backlash. Now, for the record, Andrade, I believe, was wrestling at another show. At the WrestleCade, he wrestled Speedball Mike Bailey. But I guess upon hearing that CM Punk was back, he posted a picture of himself and CM Punk backstage, I guess at a Collision show. And CM Punk is wearing a CM FTR hoodie. They seemingly get along. What's the big deal? What's happening here? There has no words. It's just at CM Punk, and it's, the fighting fist, which is kind of like a fist bump thing. And the only other tweet about WWE were tweets about Charlotte. What did he do? Did I miss something? Did I miss what pissed this guy off so much about Andrade? Or is it that AEW fans are so mad that they're now taking it out on everybody? Anybody can get it. What's even more unhinged is the reactions to it. There's so many people applauding this absolutely deranged take that somehow guys like Andrade are the problem, or they're going to spread cancer to the rest of AEW. Here's people saying Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews aren't even passionate at all, and Keith Lee disappears and suddenly appears most of the time. And then a later tweet says, this is why I advocate for TK to start cutting people, but all I hear is the morals and ethics, despite him being a billionaire. So arguing about morals in this context is really dumb. What? Wow, he says here's some more people. There's probably a good handful of former WWE folk who need to fuck off for the betterment of the company, but a lot of people wouldn't be willing to admit it. Wow, we're just blaming everybody except Tony Khan right now. The guy posted a tweet of himself and CM Punk together as if they're friends, and this is what he gets. This is what he gets. He gets attacked by a bunch of idiots. He got nothing to do with this, bruh. I don't know, man. I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, bro, it's It's streams of shit flying all over the place. How can you fix this? What are you supposed to do with this? And it only got worse from there. Here's another one. Let Andrade, Miro, Black, Buddy, FTR, and Danhausen go. Make room for other wrestlers, as well as giving their pushes to the ones on the roster that actually deserve them. What? What did these guys do? What did they do? These people are nuts, man. Andrade should just beat up Jungle Boy and threaten TK's life at this point because it worked for Punk. Why is everybody all on Andrade now? This is crazy. Jack Perry, can you get into a conflict with Andrade so he could come back to WWE? Also, throw Malachi Black in the middle. Wow. There's so many people mad at Andrade. Like, he made this happen or something like that. There's more people mad at Andrade than was mad at Jungle Boy. Like, understand how ridiculous that is. Jungle Boy, the guy who started this whole mess, Hangman, is another guy who started this mess. And these guys are Andrade is getting heat. Malachi Black is getting heat. for nothing. For absolutely nothing. Another one, this one aimed at Miro. And this is a quoting Meltzer. I know they don't ask Miro to do jobs. It kind of sucks in a lot of ways. So then the tweeter says, what kind of value does Miro have for AEW when he doesn't want to eat pins? Either he does what TK tells him or let him at home. It's not worth it to invest TV time in him then. What is going on? So then they continue with, same for Malachi Black, who has not been pinned in over a year and seems to be unhappy. Let him go if he wants to. Build on the talents that want to stay in the promotion and make AEW a great product. I have no interest in seeing the I'd rather be in WWE guys on my screen. What? I don't get that sense from any of these guys, really. You know, I don't really get the sense that all of these guys are looking to get fired at the same time. Now, I do think there was a time where, you know, Malachi Black probably wanted out, but it wasn't going to happen. He saw it wasn't going to happen. But Andrade, well, he just wants to beat up Sammy Guevara. That's really all he wanted to do. He wanted to work somewhere where he didn't want to have to beat up Sammy Guevara. So apparently during Collision, Malachi Black referred to Claudio as Cesaro, which was probably a slip of the tongue because he probably had called him that so many times they worked together. And this is the impetus for everybody to believe that he wants to be in WWE. This is the actual tweet that the person put out there. This motherfucker Malachi called Claudio Cesaro and name dropped CM Punk. I've never seen a motherfucker want to be in WWE more in my life. He's just talking, bro. Like, why are these people so paranoid all of a sudden? Everybody's trying to leave. Tony should fire everybody. What? I don't understand it. Can we slow down for a second, please? This runaway train is off the rails. Please just slow down. Here's another one. I see a lot of AEW is dead haha tweets. Not surprising at all. They die every 10 minutes, it seems. But AEW needs to do one thing. Allow all of those wrestlers like Malachi, Buddy, Andrade to leave. Just not Brody. Keep him locked away from the House of Black. I'm not understanding why these guys are catching strays because you mad at CM Punk going back. Now all of a sudden it needs to be a purge. There needs to be a purity spiral where everybody who doesn't take the blood oath to AEW, you gotta go. It's like, just use these guys better. That's why they're frustrated, because some of them are not being used to their full potential. Come on, just use the guys better. And you don't have to go through this. So here's another one. The issue is TK would rather devote TV time to ex-WWE guys like Malachi, Buddy, Andrade, and Miro, who think AEW is beneath them and are going to jump back to WWE the second their contracts expire. Wait a minute. You hardly have explained yourself here. Some of these guys may want to leave. They may not want to leave, but So far, each one of them seems to be happy to do what they're told to do, but they just want to see some improvement. Most of these guys have been in the same position for 2 or 3 years, for Christ's sake. But nobody has said that they wanted to leave yet. You know, I think maybe Andrade wants to leave. I will give them Andrade. I think Andrade wants to be out of there. But that's because his wife works in WWE. I guess you could say the same thing for Malachi, but I don't know. You know, it's hard to get a sense of how he really feels about stuff, because he's kind of quiet. He doesn't do a lot. Oh, okay. So I finally got to the bottom of it. Apparently, there's a guy who has been listening to the Dave Meltzer podcast, and apparently he's putting in the universe that a lot of ex-WWE guys are just waiting for their contracts to expire so that they can go back to WWE. So here's the tweet that that I'm referencing, and it's not verbatim, obviously, but he's trying to basically paraphrase what's going on. It says, Dave thinks Punk will respect the people who made it, quote unquote, made it there in WWE. As opposed to AEW, where at the Brawl Out presser, he was talking about top stars like Adam Page, saying he had never done anything. Quote, a lot of ex-WWE guys are like that. Dave notes that there are a few ex-WWE guys in AEW that have that mindset, that have been negative, who are just waiting to go back to WWE. Dave doesn't think that mindset serves you in AEW. Dave doesn't think CM Punk had that mindset in AEW when he first came in, but shit happened. Oh, so they're doing the shit again. They're poisoning the well again. They're now telling all of these guys, you need to get out of here. You need to just leave. You need to go bye-bye. And the guys are probably sitting at home like, what are you talking about? You know, like we haven't done anything. It's Meltzer telling the AEW faithful that these people are just waiting to go back to WWE and are not looking to offer anything to AEW. It's like, look at Tony Khan's booking of them. He does not put these guys in any good situations. It's one thing to ask a guy to lose to Kenny Omega or Chris Jericho. It's another thing to ask a guy to lose to Wheeler Yuta or Sammy Guevara or somebody like that. Unless we know what the creative is, I can't say that they're wrong to reject it. This is insane to me. And so now we got tweets like this. AEW should just release anyone who wants out. A smaller crew that wants to be there is so much more preferable than a continuation of whatever backstage maneuvering has been going on. Yeah, let's just release everybody. This is nonsense, bro. Like, you can't run a company that way. You can't fire everybody. You gotta try to negotiate with people. You gotta try to talk to them. You gotta try to see what's going on. Why are we acting this way? You know? Now they trying to purity spiral. The AEW fans want you to close ranks. You know, they want you to stand there like Attack on Titan, hand over the heart, and, you know, vow yourself to AEW. It's like, bro, it's not that serious, cuz. I promise you it's not. Just relax. They're wrestlers. They get frustrated. Guys and they see an opportunity to jump back and forth or whatever, they'll do so. But they're not dumb. They know WWE is cultivating their own stars, and not enough of those guys are leaving. So you think Andrade, Miro, Malachi Black, and who knows how many are just going to jump ship and go back over there to populate the mid-card again? When you got these guys right now, you could just push them up the card. MJF needs people to feud with anyway. I mean, you could do smarter things. You know, think about things better than what you're doing. Instead of trying to find ways to avoid and let's just get rid of everybody who wasn't here from the beginning. That's not how you grow a company. It's not how you grow business. You know, like that's nuts. You can't do that. My goodness. Sheesh. Here is another one. Again, people are expanding their blame. This is what the ripple effect. I really hope tonight was the final nail in the coffin for AEW trying to appease the fans that want them to be WWE light. Different products exist for different reasons. Focus on being a wrestling focused alternative and let the sports entertainment people stay in their lane. These people are, I was going to call her retarded. Oh my God. It's not sports. All of it is sports entertainment, for the record. There is, that's what wrestling is. But, sheesh, man. Now we have to get rid of the fans too. The fans want you to be WWE light. It's like, no, people just don't want guys covered in baby oil running around in the ring. We just don't want silly, over the top, stupid gimmicks. We don't want guys drinking blood. You know, like, we're not asking for a lot. You know, like, people are not asking for a lot. I don't see what did we ask for that was so hard for you to bring up? Oh my goodness. CM Punk has spent his entire career enraging the people he works with, napalming every bridge in his path, but being such a star that his enemies break their backs to restore those bridges and welcome him back with open arms. A perfect pro wrestler, in other words. Yeah, I started my video the other day with the with the statement from Bruiser Brody that if you're a big enough star, they'll build a new bridge. And here it is, you know, and not really all that surprised. This is from Lucha Blog. I understand he's a big fan, but leaving WWE under controversial and acrimonious circumstances, swearing to never return, and finally, after many years, returning back to WWE, is taking the Bret Hart homages a bit too seriously. They all come back eventually, unless they die. They end up coming back in one way or another. Here's another one. If it wasn't clear as day before it is now, a lot of people didn't want an alternative. They really just wanted their WWE to get better. And now that Vince isn't there, that's all they needed to stop pretending. Well, people always wanted WWE to get better because they always wanted different. You can say the same thing about Marvel and DC and, you know, different things. People who have a lifetime sort of brand loyalty to something, they don't necessarily want it to go away. They want other people to push them to be better. You know, you want better Spider-Man comics. Well, you want Spawn to outsell Spider-Man because now, you know, Marvel is going to be forced to do better Spider-Man comics. People understand the concept of competition and incentives. Is that a problem? It shouldn't be. And WWE was never going to literally be harmed by this kind of stuff anyway. If another company comes in, they're only going to get a certain amount of market share because they don't have Royal Rumble, they don't have WrestleMania, they don't have access to Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Undertaker or The Rock or anybody like that. So they're never going to be a really strong take over the world kind of company like WCW did. WCW was able to take over because they took all of WWF stars at the time, and WWF had to rebuild and create new stars. AEW didn't have the same benefit. They tried to start with their own stars who had been built up from other places and then some of the negativity that came from WWE. But ultimately, WWE still had John Cena. They still had Roman Reigns. They still had Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt and all these guys, Undertaker and Brock and all them. So they weren't going to do that much damage. But here's a even bigger picture. Is that AEW can still be the alternative whether CM Punk works there or not. You can still put on an alternative product. But that doesn't mean you have to put off the mainstream. You can, just like two bands could be in the same genre but create sort of different music. There's two different kinds of mainstream rap music. You know, there's two different kinds of mainstream movies. You don't have to be extremely dorky and niche. And, you know, you can be cool and mainstream and then still be decidedly different from something else. What everybody wants AEW to do is to be put behind a metal fence, and you have to know who Misaharu Misawa is and have to know his match with Tokiyoshi Kawada and what match it was and what dome it was in or what kabuki hall it was in order to enjoy the product. And people don't want that. You can't run a business on that. So you can still be a mainstream product, appeal to casual fans, and not be extremely fucking dorky. It's not a false binary, okay? Here's one. We're not going to do too many more. I know we've been here over an hour already. I know it's annoying to compare WCW to AEW, but the worst booked pay-per-view main event in company history, followed by the man himself returning after damn near 10 years, feels like the finger poke of doom, Mankind winning the title, double blow that changes the trajectory of both companies. I don't think that Jay White versus MJF was the worst booked. I think it was just a poorly scripted angle, you know? Yes, it was dumb. Building the show around whether MJF was actually going to be able to wrestle or not and then putting Adam Cole into place was stupid. But I don't think that anybody with a brain thought that MJF was not going to wrestle that match. I'm about to play David Bixenspan for a second. So when I play, I don't mean play audio. So don't cover your ears. I saw an interesting like on somebody's Twitter. Particularly, I saw it on David Bixenspan's Twitter, and here is what it said. So, Punk definitely got himself intentionally fired, right? The visit to Raw months ago was him testing the waters to return. What would make you think he would get intentionally fired, have his name run through the mud for weeks and weeks, make himself look unemployable just to show up? This is a crazy conspiracy. This is unhinged. It's an unhinged conspiracy theory. And he also showed up in Impact too, by the way. So why didn't it happen? And people believe this. So here's somebody. This scenario seems likely, honestly. Punk was miserable in AEW towards the end. He had gotten suspended for Brawl Out and knew he was on a short leash. He attacked Perry for some petty bullshit and gets to leave and grab the bag in the Fed after having the perfect send-off match. What? And so many people think this is a smart thing, that he just willfully destroyed his own reputation. It was the same thing with Jeff Hardy. Like, people think that Jeff Hardy destroyed his own reputation by doing that. I don't think so. You know, I think it was more fortuitous than anything. But I don't think CM Punk wanted to. Apparently, he had 2 jobs in AEW. Why on earth would he want to do that? I don't know. But this is ridiculous. I have no idea what's going on here. Let's wrap it up with 2 more. Punk fans now exclusively watching WWE as they always should have been. All is right with the world. So here's a new twist, that the CM Punk fans are just jaded WWE fans, and they didn't really like AEW. They just liked CM Punk, and they were the ones who wanted CM Punk to make AEW WWE light and all this stuff. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, really? To be quite honest, a lot of the fans of AEW in general are jaded WWE fans, because there exists a fan base that felt like they were not being served by the WWE product, as is, I think, typified by one of the responses. This has been one of the most bizarre takes about Punk. Yeah, we generally wanted AEW to go in a different direction than many of the elite fans did, but Punk was always the indie guy who made good. The whole point was that WWE wasn't quite our thing. AEW has been in its post-Punk era for months now. We already know what it looks like. Wow. So there it is. CM Punk is the indie guy who made good. Not like there weren't many indie guys who made good, like, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and Bryan Danielson. But I guess he started the trend. But this one was pretty fun. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you guys later. Hopefully everybody appreciates everything that's going on here. Hit the like button, and thank you guys for your time.